Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode here at the Stuart Farmstead. Today I am joined by my amazing husband, Shane, and we're going to be sharing a little bit about our story, how and why did we get into farming, and we're doing this video from our horse trailer. Ta-da! Why are we doing it from the horse trailer? Because it's the quietest place on the farm.
Yeah, it's the quietest place on the...
Yeah, it's really like the quietest place. Hopefully we'll have the least amount of interruptions in here because most people aren't going to know we're in here. It's a rainy day. We are so grateful for this rain. It's been raining for like the last 2 days. It's been amazing. We desperately needed it. So we thought this week we'd bring you something else, something new from the farm. And we realized that a lot of you that subscribe to our channel maybe aren't, some of you do come to the farm and shop with us or stay with us in our farm stays. So you've been here, you've talked to us, you kind of know about us. But many of you don't that subscribe to the channel. And so we thought we'd share a little bit more about our history and how and why we got into farming. But before we do that, first we should maybe give a couple of farm updates. What's going on the farm this week, Shane?
Well, we turned the horses on their track system just a little while ago. Mm-hmm. So we got 2 of them on that. We're going to try or see how that goes. It's going to go pretty good.
Yeah, so that's totally new for us.
Yeah.
We have owned horses for a long time. This is a new concept that we didn't really find. Hayden brought that to us, who runs the horseback riding program here at the farm. But it's basically, we take a pasture, like if this is a pasture, this square. We take this existing fence and then we add another fence about 10-15 feet off and like fence out the interior, and then what runs around it is called a track. And so the hopes is that they're moving forward more all day long. They're moving more. Horses really need to move a lot throughout the day to keep themselves from getting lame and from getting sick and all the things. And then we have 4 horses. 2 of them tend to be heavier eaters than the other 2.
Yeah.
One's growing, to be fair, he's a baby, but they are like heavy eaters and they get chunky really fast, which is not good for them. And so we're hoping that this is going to kind of help to control some of their diet and their movement more. So we'll see. We'll keep you guys updated on that and shoot you another one. But that was pretty exciting. That just a little while ago we were able to finish all that fencing and get the girls turned in there, and we're gonna see how they all behave like that. Be interesting. So yeah, that's our big farm project for this week. I don't know if we have anything else like major happening.
No, we just pulled our bull out of the herd, and so he's down with the steers this week. He's done his job for the season.
Yeah, his favorite season's over.
Yeah. For
the year. Hopefully he got everybody pregnant. And calving season will be it'll be here before we know it. But typically we always hope for it to start around the end of March. So we got a good 6 months-ish left. But yeah, he's done his job. He's down there with the steer group, big fat. And yeah, so right now our moms are just hanging out with their babies until weaning season. Yeah, so that's calf update, horse update. There's still some birds that are raising, some meat birds.
Yeah, they go in 2 weeks from today, meat bird thing.
Yeah.
They'll be down for the season. And turkeys are done 2 weeks after that.
Yep. So we can see the end of the meat bird season, which is always exciting. For being honest, that's our least favorite thing that we do here is produce poultry for meat. It's our least favorite. But yeah, that's a pretty general farm update this week. Grateful for the rain, and have some cabin guests coming in tonight, which might be a little challenging with the rain, but hopefully they'll enjoy their stay. All right, so we'll just go ahead and get into our story, the why and the how we got started farming. Neither one of us have a farming background. My parents don't have a farming background. My parents are who live here on the farm with us. We did come out of horses, so we both grew up with horses, riding horses, owning horses. We both worked in horse barns the majority of our high school and college-ish years. Shane even went and became a farrier. He apprenticed under someone for, like 2 or 3 years. In your early 20s, we met. You were still apprenticing when we met. We had large animal experience. We had seen a lot of, we hauled horses, so we were used to hauling live animals. We were used to handling, being around them, training them. We worked under some vets at some point at different times. We did a lot of emergency injuries, wound care. So we had like some experience in handling large animals, or a good amount.
Yeah.
My college degree is in agriculture business, so I had to work different areas of the college farm throughout my 4 years getting my degree. The degree did not particularly help me with what we do today, like at all. Not the same thing at all, but it did expose me to a lot of different kinds of livestock that I didn't necessarily have. We had to serve so many days in the dairy barn, work with those cows. We had to work the beef cattle some days. We had to do like basic like artificial insemination days. We had to do pigs, and we had to do a little bit of everything. So that kind of helped me have a little experience in everything. And I knew, my animal science, I take animal science, so I knew like gestation periods of cattle and things like that. But really, we did not grow up farming. Neither one of us grew up on a farm. So why in the world did we decide to do this? I look back now like, what? No, we do love it. It is a huge blessing, and we're really, really grateful for it. I'm kidding, but really, why? Do you know why?
I did because parents got into it, or they got into it first, or researched it for their health.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it for a while.
I don't think any of us understood for a while, but no. Really, it was my parents. My mom and dad really led the way in this entire thing. I don't think they ever intended it for it to be as big as we have taken it, which is amazing. We're still just humbled that God has done all the amazing things in our life to keep this farm going and open and operating. But it really was mom and dad. So they were, I'll give like kind of a brief little history on that. They were, I don't know, in their 50s at the time, in 50s, I guess, and were just starting to really question their health, people in their age group, and their health. Why was everybody aging on prescriptions? I'll have to have them on one day and do an episode with each of them in here one day so that they can share their view of it. But they really were just trying to better themselves, and we went vegetarian for a while, except for Shane. Shane refused to go vegetarian. The running joke, because we were like, all we were hearing at that time was red meat is bad for us, red meat's bad for us, don't eat meat. So we went vegetarian for probably a good year and a half-ish, maybe a little longer. And everyone's health got worse, actually. Mom and dad were on more prescriptions. Their weight was worse. They were just having more problems. And so that's when they kind of started questioning, okay, if vegetarian is not the answer, then what is the answer? What's wrong with red meat? Our ancestors grew up eating red meat. Why is it all of a sudden so bad? And so in that research, they really discovered how beef is being raised in this country. And that in that process of beef being in a feedlot and being finished on grain, particularly corn and soy, the omegas get out of balance. And when the omegas get out of balance, that's when we have high cholesterol and blood pressure issues and all those kind of things. The research on it now, I think, is much more developed. But there was some research back then and a few books written. And so mom and dad really kind of dove into that. Through that, they learned about grass-fed, grass-finished beef. The problem is that once they learned that, they had like an extremely hard time finding high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, particularly in our area. That was 20 years ago. Now it's much more common to try to find it. But it was really challenging. And dad was like all in. He was like, this is what we need, but we cannot find it. We were fairly newlywed at that point in time. And so they just kind of sat us down. I think we really had like just gotten back from our honeymoon, if I remember right. Like we had not been married long, and they sat us down and was like, look, we're thinking about doing this thing. We're going to try to find some land. We know you guys need land for your horses. We owned horses still. We were kind of boarding at somebody's place. We did you took care of the property. That's a story for another day, but you took care of the property in exchange for us to be able to keep our horses there because that's all we could afford. So he worked a full-time job, a couple part-time jobs, and then he also took care of this property, which was a couple hundred acres.
It was only about 80 acres.
But I thought it was much bigger than that. It seemed really big back then when we were younger. But yeah, I guess it was just about 80 acres. But that taught us a lot about property management that we really would not have known. I mean, at the time, it was kind of like pulling our hair out. You had to deal with an owner that she had her opinions on things and how things should be done. And when she wanted something fixed, she wanted it fixed right then. If it was 9 o'clock at night and you had a newborn baby at your house, it really didn't matter. But we lived on the property.
Yeah.
We lived on the property and where we boarded our horses. And she lived on the property in another home. And so he managed the property for her in exchange. So you did all the bush hogging, the weed eating, the mowing, the fence repair, watering systems, septic systems, like you name it, you kind of were just the all-around handyman, which ultimately is kind of what a farmer is. It's a big chunk of what a farmer is. That was beneficial. We didn't realize how beneficial it was to our future at the time, but we tried to manage and steward what we had, even though it wasn't ours, as best as we could.
Yeah.
But yeah, so mom and dad sat us down and we're like, hey, you guys, we're looking at getting some land. We would like for y'all to come along. And basically they were like, will you be the labor? Both of us, but mainly Shane, was like, would you be the labor? In exchange, we'll help purchase as much as possible. And that started the journey, but it was contingent on them selling their newly built house in another county, which ended up taking 6 years.
Yep.
So this discussion happened. It took nearly 6 years before we were able to buy the farm as a family. It was the longest 6 years of my life, I think. It was really challenging.
Because you moved in a single wide family, didn't you?
We were living in a single wide mobile home. And we had a newborn baby, and it was challenging. We raised that baby there, but it was challenging, to say the least. It was challenging because it wasn't our own place, and we really longed for our own place. But in the waiting, God's so good, and He blessed us abundantly. So yeah, so that's kind of how that started. But in the waiting, Dad couldn't wait too terribly much longer, and he started buying cattle.
Yep.
Do you remember the first cattle he bought? And we were like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Highlands. Scottish Highlands.
Scottish Highlanders is what he bought. And we were like, aren't they made for the cold? Like, they got that long, really thick hair, and they got
really big horns.
Big horns, and like, I don't know, that's a great idea. He's like, no. He may tell the story a little different, but that didn't last long. And those suckers were gone. I think he took one day working them in the chute, and he was like, absolutely not.
No, I think he hauled them. I think he moved them. Actually, they brought them to our place where we was living at. works his deal out with Charlotte. He brought him there.
That's right.
He made like 2 or 3 trips, maybe, I don't remember, but I think it took that. Once they got there, I think he was.
It was like
Wasn't long after that they all left.
Yeah, he was done. He sold them all. So then he got in with a couple guys that were doing cows and getting into cows, and they was looking at Dexter's, and then the South Pole cattle came along, and he actually discovered that and did his research and met Tony Gentry and bought into the foundation herd, and bought a good crop of heifers. And we didn't own land at the time. We didn't have anything really, like maybe a truck and a trailer, but we didn't own anything else.
Buying the truck trailer during all that.
Mm-hmm. And so where were these cows going to go? Well, he had a guy. You were working for him. So Dad ran a commercial construction business in Nashville for many years, and Shane went to work for him right before we got married, and along with many other jobs that Shane did. Story for another day. But there was another guy that you worked with. You guys were like the top 2 worker, or the main workers of.
Worked out of the office.
He worked out of the office, and his name was Joel. And Joel has been a family friend for many years. But they were at the other side of Nashville. But he had he still has a family farm of 200 acres ish, and had cows, but hadn't really done it regeneratively, organic minded, but was willing to learn. And so our cattle Dad leased that land and put our cattle there while we were still trying to find our farm where God wanted us to be. So yeah, wow, it seems a long time to go down memory lane. That was a trialing season for sure. Like, whoo, it was trialing.
Yeah.
But we're stronger for it. So yeah, then the second half of 2012, you found this property. I remember that distinctly. We had looked everywhere. We were literally at our wits' end. We had gone far and wide. We didn't think we could afford super close in towards Nashville and Middle Tennessee area. So we hadn't looked heavily in that area because we just really didn't think we could afford it. But we had looked for 6 years at property. And this place had gotten missed. And the reason it got missed was because there was no real entrance into the farm. And so
actually there was a guy that rented the place. There was a great big training barn where we lived at, and he was renting that barn, and he had moved from there and moved here. But he had come to I remember him the day he come to our front door and wanted me to come and trim some horses for him. And I came up here, but it wasn't for sale yet. But I just brought my truck trailer, and there was nothing here. I mean, there was an old barn, and he had a bunch of horses here, and I shot a couple for him.
And you had to come up through the pastures.
Yep.
You had to come in through our neighbors, which, praise the Lord, we now own that. But at the time, we had the best neighbors, sweet older couple. You had to come over their bridge and cut through our pastures to get up to the main part of the farm. There was this old barn, and that guy had makeshift some stalls in there. He was running horses and cutting hay on it, but that was it. The fencing was pretty shot. But the main driveway never got finished put in, and so we kind of had overlooked it. But yeah,
I don't remember how long after that I had found it online, or we had looked either I found it and then we looked at it, or we looked at it once and then wrote it off. I can't remember.
I think we kind of wrote it off because there was no main entrance to it, and then you brought it up again, and we were like, "What the heck? Let's just all go look at it." The price was better, I think, is what it was, and it was towards the end of a recession, I believe, and land was sales were funny then, and it was more land than we thought we could afford. I think that's part of why we overlooked it. But isn't God good?
Yeah.
He's so good. And it worked out. And the end of November of 2012, we were able to finalize the purchase of the land. And yeah. And then we started immediately on our house because we really needed to move out of where we were.
It was almost exactly 6 months after we bought the place. We started on the house.
Yeah, and we got the house built in 5.5 months. Because it was like a bulldog on them. I was a little intense.
So you ready to get out of that single wide?
I was done. I was like, no more. And halfway through that build, we're pregnant with Caleb. And so I was like, this house is getting done. I am not having this baby, this single wide trailer. We're going to bring this baby home to this new house. So I had already had house plans. I've been drawing house plans for 6 years from scratch and worked with an architect to get it on blueprints and had started that process just immediately after the purchase of the land. We needed our house to be built first, mainly because we needed to be out of our house for sure, but also because we knew that someone needed to be living here and it needed to be us so that we could get the cattle moved down here. So that was quite the journey, to say the least, to do all of that. Yeah, so we purchased the land, we built our house, we've got moved here. In that process of building, we were also here. You worked 4 tens, so they worked Monday through Thursday, and then you had Friday and Saturday off. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. We'll use that very loosely because you did other multiple jobs for a very long time and still do multiple jobs. You were like the king of side hustles. I tell you what, I knew when I married you, I was like, we will never be without food because this man is going to make money somehow. And he had lots of skills on her own, which I appreciated. And we've used all those skills here.
Yeah.
You boy, have you come in handy.
Just about used me up though.
You're not done. He could shoe horses. He could pour concrete because he grew up pouring concrete. He ran concrete for years, even on his own for a while. You could build things. You were in commercial construction. You're just all around handyman. But yeah, and you could run a lot of equipment. So we had a skid steer and a tractor, and we started pulling miles of barbed wire fencing up. There was barbed wire fencing everywhere. Which I think because we both come out of the horse industry, we had seen enough injuries caused by barbed wire that we were like, absolutely not. You just see one horse's eyelid get ripped off from barbed wire and you're like, no barbed wire. So
or a hoof, back of the hoof.
Oh, the back of the hoof. We had a mare just literally cut her. It was hanging. She about sawed her foot off, I still don't know how she did that. She lived there like her whole life and had never had a problem and got herself hung, and we thought she was dead. That's a story for another day. Oh my word. But needless to say, we had some bad experience with barbed wire, so we pulled all that barbed wire up. It was miles of it. Did that on the weekends and was very blessed to get a grant with the soil conservation guys to help us install all of our fencing and our water systems. That was huge. Very, very helpful. A big blessing. We were trying to keep the livestock fence out of the creeks that are here because those creeks pour into the Duck River. And so more erosion happens when those animals are coming in and out of the creek beds. So we worked with them to establish really good fence lines that have been a blessing to us for sure. It really started with beef.
Yeah.
Beef was our heart and our passion. Shane and I we absolutely adore raising cattle. We love our beef cattle. That is our favorite. As a team, that's what we like to do the most is horses and cows. And we enjoy hosting people. That was a surprise we didn't know was coming. That was further down the road in the story, for sure. We started with beef. And then as we were educating ourselves and learning more about regenerative farming, which that's not what it was called then. There really was no like one term for it. It was kind of like sustainable or beyond organic or grass fed, but there really wasn't the name regenerative then. But as we were learning this more sustainable way of farming, we discovered how poor quality pork is and how poor quality chicken is and turkey. And we really wanted to be able to feed ourselves the very best. And so we started raising those things in small, really small batches for ourselves. And then people found out when we were doing it. And then I can remember looking at one day and after somebody had just stopped by the house, I was like, maybe we shouldn't be selling meat out of our carport. And that began the dream for me on a farm store, which, yeah, it's amazing where it's come in a short amount of time. It's been open 6 years now. But it was a good year and a half process to get that store up and going and built and all the things. But our vision, or at least my vision for it, was yes, we could go to a farmer's market and not have to build a store, not have to have strangers out on our property where we live. But we really wanted to open our doors for consumers and the next generation to come out to the farm and not just take our word for at the market or wherever that, you know, these were our practices. We wanted you to be able to see it and experience it. And that kind of is the passion that birthed the farm store. Plus, we knew that we would be much more efficient in our time and being able to manage the farm if people came to us instead of us going to people. And we've had the most amazing customer base. We really have an amazing customer base.
Yep.
We have the most loyal, kind, understanding people. They've been patient with us as we've learned through things and worked through things and worked with different butchers and all the challenges that come with, there's so many challenges that come with selling your product direct to the consumer. And there was a lot of things that we had to learn, particularly me, had to learn along the way about marketing directly to the consumer, as well as getting a really good finished product to the consumer. Something I don't think you're ever like perfect at. I feel like we're still working on it. But we have learned a lot in that time. And I can remember driving home. I don't know where I had been, but I was driving home on our road one day and just felt like was thinking we needed something. What was going to be our slogan or what was going to be our mission statement for this store kind of thing. And the Holy Spirit just impressed on me the statement, healing our community one bite at a time. And we ended up putting that over the door of the store. And it's I think it's been an encouragement for us to read it and see it regularly and to remind us why we do what we do. And that was meant to not just be healing our community one bite at a time in the physical with food, but we meant that mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And how are we to build community and bless community that is here in this place? So that's a bit of our story on why we decided to farm. Why did we decide regenerative farming? I think that just was in our research.
Yeah.
As we were researching and learning, and you had to learn a lot about, intensive rotational grazing, adaptive grazing, which again, that word wasn't being used. It's starting to be used now, adaptive grazing, that term. But, how often, how many animals can this land actually handle? The challenge we found is that there are amazing resources out there, different books and workshops, YouTube channels and podcasts of guys that have been doing this much longer than we have, and they're great. The problem is that what we kept running into with all of them is they kind of share as if it's a one and done thing. Like this worked on this piece of land, so it'll work on this piece of land. And we found really fast that was just not true. Every piece of land is different, and what works a mile down the road from here might not work here, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that was a hard lesson to learn, because we're sitting here going, but this is what such and such said, this is what such and such said, and so it should work. And it wasn't working, particularly, or certain things did work here that didn't work everywhere else. Our biggest challenge here is that we are on rock. We are on bedrock, like something off. We have a hard time getting fence posts in the ground. In fact, when we were building all of our new fences and our gates and our gate posts, we had the well driller come out with our well drilling guy, because we have 4 wells here on the property. We had him come out and use the well drill to punch holes in the ground through the rock.
They're about 20, maybe 20 posts marked out where
he just came one day and y'all had them all marked out. And because we had to have those posts there and in those specific locations. So it makes it really challenging, because all these guys in the regenerative world and the soil world and everything, they talk about these huge, long, big root systems under the soil. Well, we literally can't obtain that, because we're on rock. And yes, our goal is to build more soil, grow more soil, but that takes a really long time to do. It's not super quick. I think we've done it well. We have seen major improvements for our land since being here and implementing all of these techniques and things like that. But it's been a challenge. Trying to figure out like how many animals to have on the property, how many cows can we really have. We're running out of room. We've been out of room. In fact, we have a partner farm we work with in North Alabama. We lease some land now for some of our steers, because we are out of states. We are out of grass.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you just go like 2.5 hours south into North Alabama, and they have the most beautiful pastures. They have way more soil content than we do up here. So those are things that have been challenging as we learn, do, and develop. But I'm really glad that we stuck with it.
Yep.
I think regenerative farming is important. I don't think it's going away. I don't think it's trendy. I think that to truly bless this earth and the land that we live on, and to have a sustainable food system for generations to come, I think regenerative farming is the answer. I think what we've been doing is destructive, and we are losing topsoil. We are eroding away a lot of our valuable land, our valuable soil, and that was a big part of it for us as well. Is through all of this purchasing a farm and getting into cattle and things like that, we really had a deep passion for all this for the next generation. Whether or not our boys end up farming or not, we knew that it was important for them to be connected to the land, to know where their food came from, to know how to get it raised properly. It's a big part of the vision and legacy as well here. We have so much more to do. We're not done by any means. We hope to obtain more land and be able to put it into regenerative land.
Yeah.
It's a big goal of ours. To be able to obtain more land, whether that's the land, surrounding lands to this property, or if it's land somewhere else, we're willing to go and do what's needed. Anything else you need to share?
We'd like to have more land, so we increase our cow-calf operation at the beginning. Then we will increase our grass, so we have to spend so much on hay over there.
That would be nice too. We do spend a good chunk on hay.
Yeah.
Good chunk. On paper, I don't know that any of this makes sense to do, but we're blessed to do it. And hosting, we kind of skip that. The hosting people in farm states was never a part of the vision. We did not see that coming.
No.
God just put that in our laps, and come to find out, we really enjoyed it. And it's been challenging. We've had moments where it's been challenging having people on the property and feeling like you lose a little bit of your privacy, and your children growing up here and still feeling like they can be children when you're hosting guests. But the farm stays have been a huge part of our agritourism here at the farm, and agritourism is so important and valuable to farms that are selling direct to consumer. It's necessary for farms to have some sort of agritourism and value-added products, and that's why we eventually also added in a commercial kitchen trailer for our store, and we also added the farm stays, which now we've got a handful of RV sites. People can bring their RVs here. We've had the campsite, which was one of our original builds, with open air cabins. It's like glamping. And then we just have the recent Airbnb house that Mom and Dad have done on the farm, and they all work really beautifully well together and are quite the blessing for us. Again, not something we intended to do, but here we are, and it works, and we're very grateful for it. It for sure helps us be able to continue to farm. Mm-hmm. Like, we wouldn't be here. You've been home how many years now, full time?
I think it'd be 5 years in April.
So 4.5 years. But we've been farming here for going on 13 years. So the majority of that, building the farm, starting the farm, even starting the farm store and hosting the RVs, you worked a full-time job that was an hour away and drove that far and had 2 hours of your day just on the road minimum. That was challenging. I really don't know how we did that. I do not know. I could not go back to that at all. Having you here full time has been amazing. We get so much more done, for sure. We hustled. Boy, did we hustle. I think we're still hustling. But we were really hustling back then to make this thing work. The farm stays we just kind of fell into, and it took off, and we've been incredibly blessed. I'm so mad at myself for never recording how many, trying to keep track of how many people we've hosted. I don't know that we could. I mean, it's been thousands of people.
Yeah.
It really has been thousands of people that we have hosted on this property and met. And I mean, we know people across the country. It's quite impressive because we don't get to leave very often. So we live vicariously through our
they come from everywhere. California and
everywhere.
Yeah.
Washington, Oregon. We've had people from Oregon staying with us, Texas. But people came down from Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York. It's really cool that we've been able to open up our farm and our home and share it with so many.
We'll get a lot of the snowbirds here soon going south.
Yes. We lovingly call them snowbirds. Snowbirds. The snowbirds are those that their home is like Michigan. They're up there, but they have an RV, and they'll have like a landing spot down in Florida, and so they'll drive through, and we're like the stop. We're like a great, they love it because we're like a midway stopping point. So they'll come and stop and stay with us. Sometimes they'll stay a couple days, but we have some that do that regularly, coming and going up and down the country to stay with the warm weather. But yeah, we've been super blessed and some of our dearest friends and relationships have come out of hosting people. Yeah, it's been surprising. I don't think we anticipated to have that. We have some people that have truly blessed and invested in our boys and kept up with them and loved them and watched them grown up. It's been really neat. Well, this has been fun.
Yep.
We should do it again. You guys leave some comments in the comment section for us. Give this video a like and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you if there is another part of our story that you would like to hear more of, or if you have a question on how we operate some of our businesses, we would be happy to hear from you and would love that so much. So thank you for joining us today here at the Stuart Farmstead. We hope you have a blessed day.